Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the channel that not only tells you what's going on in the gun world, but also walks through it with you on how we're going to fix it together. The content today is going to be something that's going to strike some bells for memory for some of you, and some of you it's brand new information. We're going to dive into the ghost gun rule because all of a sudden, the media is viewing it as a pariah. It is an outsider. It is a failed mission, which is weird because now coming to the memory part, if you guys were with us 2 years ago or a year and a half ago when this was all the rage, it was the hottest thing since sliced bread. Biden finally doing something against the scourge of gun violence, the proliferation of epidemic of whatever. You know, all those little talking points that they threw at us. Well, now all of a sudden it's out of favor. Everything's going to be linked in the description box below. I'm going to say a quick word from our new sponsor, Smith & Bradley, and then we are going to hit it, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Now, the watch that I'm wearing on my wrist right now, this is something from Smith & Bradley. They sent this my way, and I want to tell you a few things about it because it's actually something you might be interested in. Now, it's a traditional no-frills field watch designed for those who live outside. This is called the Discovery Quartz Field Watch. Swiss quartz movement, NATO watch strap for securing, comfort, and solid steel construction. 10 meters water resistant, includes 24-hour military time markings, light illumination for dark moments, and it has a lifetime warranty. Thank you so much to Smith & Bradley for making this content possible. But now we have got to dive into this, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think in the comments field below. So as I mentioned in the introduction, this was the bee's knees back in the day when Biden was first inaugurated. He's a new president, and he was going to change everything. He was going to stop cancer, actually said it. He was going to lower the oceans, actually said it. All the things. Well, this was one of the things that the media was touting as finally a president who's doing something. This is what we need to see. Leadership. Stop the proliferation of gun violence. Stop the epidemic of gun crime. The scourge. You know, all those talking points. Well, all of a sudden, it's not that popular in the New York Times of all places. Check this out. New federal rule has done little to stem the spread of ghost guns. Now, it could be the fact that it was a completely ineffective rule and only meant for fundraising for gun control groups and something to say they're doing something because they couldn't get anything done legislatively, all of which we drilled into the ground when we talked about these things back in April of 2021. Could be that, or it could be the fact that it's locked up in court because it's dramatically unconstitutional. It's been stuffed in Rhode Island on a state level, and it's stuck in federal court in Texas. There's lots of reasons this hasn't really worked. In fact, even the ATF says we don't know what we're doing on it, and here's the actual rules. It's all up in the air, and maybe that's contributing to that. Could be one of those three things, but let's continue. Because they're actually going down the road of this is not a good look. And this came out on the 15th, so this is new information, right? Washington. President Biden celebrated the adoption of a federal rule in August that cracked down on the online sale of untraceable components for weapons known as ghost guns as a major step in stemming gun violence. But the rule has done little to stop the sale of key parts used to make deadly homemade firearms, according to officials and gun control groups. The rule is completely ineffective? And the New York Times is piling on? That's kind of weird. It's almost like this entire thing was a marketing ploy. That's kind of what we talked about, using the Second Amendment as a punching bag and then seeing what's going to stick against the wall. That's straight out of Giffords.org, Moms Demand Action, Every Town for Gun Safety, Brady, all of them. All the main gun control groups pushed for this incredibly hard, and throughout the entire time this was going through the process, we're defending it and lauding Biden as this visionary who finally did something about gun violence. And the whole time, channels like this were sitting here saying, what are they talking about? Anyway, let's keep going. The move was a centerpiece of the administration's broader initiative to address the proliferation of illegal weapons. Proliferation, talking point. Driving an increase in mass situations and violent crime. An effort highlighted by the passage of Mr. Biden's sweeping, if limited, oh, that is a loaded if limited, bipartisan gun deal in June. But because the rule was created through executive action, which is what we drove home on this channel together, rather than a statute validated by Congress, it has given companies confidence that they can keep selling individual gun parts. Well, the whole point of this entire thing was it was not legislatively possible. They did not pass anything through Congress. They didn't pass H.R. 8. They didn't pass H.R. 1446. They didn't pass any ghost gun legislation. They didn't rewrite the Gun Control Act of 1968. The only thing they were able to get through was the Bipartisan Gun Control Act. And even the New York Times, who is clearly upset, goes, it's limited. That's what they were able to do. Again, that's New York Times. It's not me. But as we go forward, it was not validated by Congress because it's an executive action. It's a rule. It is not legislation. That's incredibly important, and we hit it so hard on this channel because they're never going to tell you the truth when it happens. I will always tell you exactly what's going on from my perspective, the best that I can to my ability. But let's keep going because it's really odd to see them turn face like this. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the agency responsible for enforcing gun laws, has been reluctant to target vendors who sell those parts out of concern that doing so would prompt a legal backlash. Well, that's interesting. Even though Mr. Biden's allies are pushing the administration to take a much more aggressive stance. That's a translation there. You've got gun control groups that want them to push the ATF even further. The ATF's going, guys, we can't push any harder or we're going to get knocked down by the judicial system. They're already knocked down by the judicial system in Texas and in Rhode Island. But if they push any harder, and this is the emperor has no clothes moment. The gun controllers who read the New York Times, this whole article is aimed at, the rule doesn't really work. It's kind of the ATF's fault. And the ATF is going, guys, you're so close to the line on unconstitutionality that we can't go any further. It's not possible. There's already legislation in place that governs the government from doing exactly what they're doing, yet the gun controllers want them to go further. The Gun Control Act of 1968, which was referenced by Jim Jordan in a letter to the ATF a week ago, is the point you need, and that's what they're trying to allude to. Check this out, because this is deep. This is the stuff that they won't tell you easily. Quote, "The problem is it's a regulation, not a statute. So there's only so much the ATF can do," said Adam Winkler, a law professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, who studies the legal and constitutional issues around gun policy. You mean there's limits to the executive power and they can't legislate from the executive branch? There's a split in our government processes for a reason. The executive enforces, the Congress makes legislation or laws, and the judicial judges those laws as constitutional or not. The entire thing is built on a checks and balances, which is why they are dancing through the executive actions, which we've been hitting on so hard, because that's where they're relegated. See, did I say that second part? No, here we go. Quote, "There are clear limits, and they risk losing in court if they push it too far," he added. That's why you now see companies that used to market the kits simply switching over to selling the components separately and letting the buyers assemble their own kits, which is exactly what we talked about. I did a video that said Biden created his own market. He created his own third-party market because the ATF, in their ruling or in their defense of their rule in Texas, said, no, you can sell the kits perfectly fine. You just can't sell the jigs. So all that happened was someone sold jigs over here and someone sold kits over here. Nothing changed. And it's still pending litigation and judicial review. All right, got one more thing for you. I am getting spicy, but man, it is not clear if the new guidelines on handguns will target the sale of online parts. But ATF officials have told members of Congress they worry that doing so would almost certainly elicit court challenges from gun rights groups arguing that such actions violate the Gun Control Act of 1968, which allows the construction of firearms for their personal use without submitting to background checks or applying serial numbers. That is exactly the statute that Jim Jordan wrote in a letter to the ATF. Jim Jordan is going to be the chair or the head of the Judicial Committee. Everything is going against everything that they want here, and it's been this way since they first initiated the rule. But they're just now telling you right before they lose power of Congress. Isn't that weird? That's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.